it would be like ignoring the iPhone when it came out. They are definitely going to be a part of our culture. They are massive for mental health, and they're definitely something that everyone should understand. The short story is that functional mushrooms totally changed my life.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on. First of all, I'm really excited to chat with you.
My guest today is Alli Schaper. You're the co-founder and the CEO of Into the Multiverse, which is an education-first ecosystem for all things fungi. And your mission is to rebrand functional mushrooms and encourage collaboration amongst the psychedelics industry. I'm super honored to have you here today, and maybe we can start off by you giving us a little introduction about yourself.
Everything that we're doing now really is a product of personal experience and being fascinated with the power of first functional mushrooms that completely transform my health, and then psychedelics, which completely transformed my mind, so to speak. And my background's a little bit all over the place. I've worked in corporate America. I had a wellness company before this, and I've worked in a lot of different industries. Everything that I've done has kind of had like a consistent theme of community. And I've always loved hosting. I've always loved gathering people, and everything that we're doing now really incorporates that. And I think the mushrooms are the greatest teachers of community. So those are kind of just bits and pieces, but you kind of shared a little bit about the company, but everything that I'm doing now is related to mushrooms. We have a company called Into the Multiverse, and it's an ecosystem, right? We have a few different things that we're doing. The primary one being Super Mush, which is our in-house brand. You're wearing your Super Mush hoodie right now, which is amazing. We make supplements and we make merch. Functional, fully legal superfood mushrooms, that's Super Mush. And then we also have a marketplace called the Multiverse. It's a very small percentage of our business, but it's like a thrive market for mushrooms. And then the third arm of our brand is we have this, media education platform where we do all of our education and our advocacy in the psychedelic space. So we have a podcast called Into the Multiverse. We do a lot of events, community building amongst psychedelic thought leaders. And then we're also doing some nonprofit work in the legalization space, which we can dive into later.
And what would you say are like the core values of both Into the Multiverse and Super Mush?
Everything that we talk about, we describe our company as a mental health company. People that are listening to this may be familiar because of the type of content that you're putting out, but mental health is the largest problem the world is facing by far. It feels foundational to all other issues. And statistically, 1 in 8 people are suffering from some sort of a mental health disorder. So, it's over 1 billion people globally, and those are the documented clinical indications. And we firmly believe, we as in myself, my co-founder, my team, our investors, like everyone that we're working with, that mushrooms are some of the most powerful antidotes to improve mental health and physical health. They're very connected. So mental well-being, community, integrity, all of these lessons, like, these values that I'm talking about, they really are the values that we learned from mushrooms. I have this article I wrote about if humans would behave more like mushrooms, we would have a far more joyous and connected world. And I firmly believe that because there's a lot of intelligence within the power of the fungi kingdom that we can learn from.
On your website on Super Mush, like one of your quotes is that you think that mushrooms need a serious rebrand. Can you go a little deeper into that?
Fungi is a kingdom of its own, right? We have the plant kingdom, we have the animal kingdom, and then we have fungi. We're actually, as humans, more closely related to fungi than we are to plants, which is really crazy. So we share a lot of our DNA with fungi, and they have been used for thousands of years in pretty much every society since the beginning of time. Yet the West is having this kind of wake up moment to the power of mushrooms right now, and they're drastically misunderstood. A lot of that misunderstanding comes from the stigma that was put onto mushrooms, psychedelics in general. There's 2 types of mushrooms that we can break down, but specifically talking about psychedelics and the reason why there's a stigma around mushrooms from the war on drugs in the 60s and 70s from the Nixon administration. A lot of the amazing research that was going on with psychedelic assisted therapy was going on during those decades, but it was shut down for reasons that most people know about. War on drugs happened, and the research was kind of silenced for several decades. Now it's having a resurgence. People are kind of re-waking back up to the power of psychedelic assisted therapy. And so why we say that mushrooms need a rebrand is because they're drastically misunderstood. A lot of people don't understand the difference between chaga or cordyceps, which are fully legal, functional superfood fungi, and psilocybin, which is the psychoactive part of magic mushrooms. Both actually carry a lot of stigma, even though the category of functional mushrooms that we have in the Super Mush is fully legal. So the rebrand comes from, the education of all mushrooms, all fungi, and really trying to rewrite the narrative that was incorrectly bestowed on such an incredible medicine.
Maybe you can share a little bit about how functional mushrooms can optimize our health and vitality in general.
It's one of the first questions that people ask is, what is a functional mushroom? And it's kind of a funny term. Technically, all mushrooms are functional, including the psychedelic ones, but the term functional mushroom is what is most commonly referred to as medicinal non-psychoactive mushrooms. So again, the ones that we have in Supermush, all the brands that we have in the Multiverse have been used as therapeutic preventative medicine for thousands of years. Very commonly found in Chinese medicine. Functional mushrooms are rich in beta glucans and all of these compounds that function as immune modulators in our system. So if you've ever heard of the term adaptogen, basically means it helps your body adapt to stress. That's a very simplified way of explaining it. But functional medicinal mushrooms are renowned for these adaptogenic qualities that aid in optimizing different areas of health and vitality. And so to break down functional mushrooms, there's like 13 main ones that people may hear about. This is cordyceps, chaga, turkey tail, lion's mane. A lot of what people don't understand about functional mushrooms that I love just to start explaining is that, humans really evolved eating them. So I mentioned they've been used for thousands of years, but if you look back, research shows that during some of the most vital periods of human development, we were using functional mushrooms for everything from athletic performance, sexual function, memory function. The biggest, most expansive period of human brain growth was during a time when we were eating daily large doses of functional mushrooms. Everything that we're doing is trying to help people reintegrate them into their diet.
And earlier you also talked about mushrooms really being like a profound teachers, extremely intelligent. How do they adapt to our bodies? And what can we do personally to listen more to their teachings?
If you go way, 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 way back, scientists believe that humans actually split from fungi around 650 million years ago. And so there's a lot of parallels, like I said, to human DNA and fungi. And that's kind of a whole rabbit hole to go down. But the reason why I share it is there's a lot of wisdom within mushrooms. So the interact when they enter our bodies, specifically psychedelic mushrooms with psilocybin, which is the psychoactive part of magic mushrooms. When psilocybin converts to psilocin in your brain, it opens up your visual cortex. It removes you from thinking in your default mode network. And your default mode network is where you make all of your habit loops and decisions. And so what this enables us to do is actually take a step outside of our human experience that we're in, so to speak, unplug from the matrix a little bit and observe the way that we are living our lives in a different way. Form new neural pathways. It can increase neuronal function in the brain, can increase creativity, athleticism. It's really remarkable what psilocybin psychoactive mushrooms can do. And so once you really start to understand the power of mushrooms, there's so much to know. We're just really scratching the surface.
And then you also have a nonprofit, which is called Microdosing Collective, where your aim is to the legalization of microdosing psychedelics. Why is this so important?
The point of confusion around mushrooms is which ones are legal and which ones are not. So psilocybin, magic mushrooms are still Schedule 1 illegal drugs, meaning that the FDA, DEA finds them to have no medicinal benefit, even though there's hundreds of clinical trials going on across the country that have been happening for decades and an ample amount of research to prove that these are some of the most effective mental health treatments that we have accessible to us. So our goal with Microdosing Collective, it's a nonprofit, is to help provide safe and legal channels for microdosing substances. We really see this as a form of harm reduction and helping to mitigate the risks that come from cross-contamination and incorrect dosing via underground channels. Kind of a mouthful, but let me know if you have any questions that I can dive further into it.
What policies are you aiming to implement with Microdosing Collective?
Our goal would be to create some sort of an over-the-counter or prescription model for microdosing psilocybin to start as a wellness supplement. And so what we would be looking to do is look for a state that's already looking to roll out psilocybin-assisted therapy or other psychedelic-assisted therapies, maybe in California or New York, depending on who is the most progressive, and looking to attach language to those bills that would create some sort of increased access and safe, way for people to access microdosing as a wellness supplement without having to go to the black market.
Would you say that psychedelics allow us to take a shortcut to spirituality?
There's a lot of parallels that you can reach with psychedelics that are similar to what your brain will look like if you're in transcendental meditation. So actually, if you look at the brain of someone who's in a deep state of meditation and the brain of someone on psychedelics, they're actually very similar brain scans. Yet meditation and getting people to get into that practice is a little bit of an uphill battle, to say the least. And a lot of what I believe is that the world is mental health-wise and a little bit of a burning forest. And so for a mass up level in consciousness that a lot of people are seeking, psychedelics psychedelics are a really incredible tool. Doesn't mean that everyone should take psychedelics by any means, but we spoke about this at a recent event. To be in the world right now, a leader of a company, to be, involved in progressive anything, and to be ignoring the power of psychedelics it would be like ignoring the iPhone when it came out. They are definitely going to be a part of our culture. They are massive for mental health, and they're definitely something that everyone should understand, even though not everyone should take them.
You spoke already a little bit about it, but can you give us a little bit more information about the correlation between mental health and microdosing?
For people that are microdosing is more about what you don't feel rather than what you do. So it can decrease depressive symptoms, low to acute anxiety. What it's really popular for is creativity, athletic performance. You'd be shocked if you're new to this space, but a lot of the most impressive founders, CEOs in the world credit microdosing, some sort of psychedelic or involvement with psychedelics, as the reason for their creativity behind their company. So the list is long, but high level, that's what it can do. And the last thing I kind of like to share for people that are interested in microdosing, you can find a lot of resources on microdosingcollective.org. That's what our nonprofit is called. And I really describe it as like live pattern interruption. So versus when you are taking a larger dose of a psychedelic in a therapeutic setting where you are in an eye mask, listening to music, for lack of a better way to describe it, like inside your own brain. When you're microdosing, you are interacting with you and the outside world. And I have found microdosing for me enables me to pattern interrupt different habits that I've had since I was a child, because it increases neuroplasticity in the brain just slightly. So you're able to objectively look at things in a different way.
What's your view on the overall wellness and healing industry?
My original passion path in life was I thought I was going to help disrupt American healthcare and help create a more value-based system. Because the reality of the US healthcare system is that, from manufacturing of a product to end consumer, there's around 8 different players that are involved in the markup of that product. A lot of those players don't need to be there. And anytime you have massive profit incentives, there's a lot of backwardsness in the way that we treat disease. And my own personal experience with Western medicine is being prescribed a lot of pills for things that I didn't need, a lot of, almost surgeries for things that I actually didn't even have. And so I haven't had a great experience. And my passion for working in that space was because of that experience. But after I started to learn more and interview a lot of people that were working in some of the largest healthcare companies in the United States, I learned that we're not focused on preventative measures. When you go to the doctor, you're not asked about your nutrition and your relationships and all of these things that are actually massive, more massive than anything that they actually ask about and what it means to be a healthy human, and are an incredible tool for that, for preventative health. They function, like I said, like immune modulators in your system. The more that you take them, the more your immune system is resilient against disease. And really, health is the ability to be resilient against disease. And I think that we catch it too late. I think that everything that we're doing in the wellness industry is actually just to return us back to human and reconnect us to all these ancient practices that have worked for thousands of years.
Tell us a little bit about your personal wellness routine. What is essential for you?
I've been through many different routines and stuff in my life. Cold therapy is really important for me. I love ice baths. I have a morning routine practice with journaling and with red light therapy and with reading that's really important to my mental health. And there's so many other little things that I do around food and nutrition and movement, all of that. But honestly, I genuinely believe that the best thing for my mental health is people and community. So I make sure that is a staple part of my routine and my week. I love hosting. I love bringing people together, and that really brings me a lot of joy. So the intentional, very deep relationships that I have in my life, I think are by far the greatest biohack you can have.
And because you just said it, what is the meaning of joy personally to you?
I like to gauge my days of how much am I laughing, and humor is a big part of my life. So I think that joy can be tied back to that. There's so many different elements, right? And you can only be as joyous as you've experienced sorrow. So I think sorrow and joy really do go together. There's a lot of really cliche quotes around that, but I found it to be very true in my life. My joy is only as deep as it has been the opposite.
We talk a lot about the how in wellness, meaning how do we build healthy habits and how to eat better to become more healthy and how to exercise. But I think one thing that has been really tricky is that we a lot of times forget to think about the why, and why do we want to be healthy, and also helping people find their whys. Can you tell us about your why and why you have dedicated your life to this work?
especially in America, if you're just to look at like the amount of prescriptions that we're on that numb our consciousness, that essentially make us float through our lives. It's not ideal, to say the least. And when I feel alive and awake and vital in my life, I can be more in service to the world. I can be a better friend, better daughter, better sister, all the things, right? And I think a lot of what the why is longevity, but not longevity just to live a long time. It's like, how many days can you actually feel like you were awake fully in your life? Everything that I'm doing is kind of geared towards that.
If there is one daily practice that you think everyone should be adopting to help us live our lives to the fullest, what would it be?
If I had to pick one habit, kind of share it. People, deepen your relationships with people, call people you love, talk to them about why we're not designed to live in massive houses alone. We're designed to live in community with people that we love. That is the biggest marker of health and happiness above everything else.
Who do you personally learn from? And is there anyone that you see achieving breakthroughs in healing?
My biggest teachers are the people around me. We have a completely different way of adopting information now, where like most of it is really from Instagram and people that are directly related to someone we know. So a lot of how I get my news is from Instagram and people posting about things, because we have a totally different way of consuming information now, especially if you're a millennial, Gen Z. So my biggest inspirations are the doctors and therapists and people around me. I'm very inspired by a lot of people that are working in the psychedelic space, because I think it's foundational to mental health, and mental health is foundational to everything else. I have a lot of really amazing teachers around me, and my personal drive with all of this is I hear story after story every single week, whether it's someone messaging me on Instagram or someone sending me an email or someone reaching out to our company about their life-changing experience with both functional and psychedelic mushrooms. And those stories are very motivating.
And what's next in your personal healing journey?
I'm the most excited to continue to dive into my spirituality, to learn things about my body, to dive into my meditation practice. There's so many things. I feel like the journey is never over. My friends have this quote around, it's like further to go and nowhere to get. I'm very content, and I always want to continue to optimize and look at how I can be more awake in my life, whatever that means.
And where can people follow you to keep up to date with everything that you're doing?
My personal Instagram is Alli Schaper. I'm very active on there. And everything I'm doing company-wise is linked up under there. So we have our brand Supermush. Into the Multiverse is where we have our podcast and we do events. Multiverse is our marketplace. And then Microdosing Collective is our nonprofit. But all that can be found at my personal Instagram. So if anyone wants to chat further, please reach out.
Well, thank you so much, Alli. This was such a great interview, and I personally learned so much. You have incredible knowledge in that space. I could just sit here for hours and ask more questions.